Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting and thrilling round of racing in the Sim Racing Collective GT4 Series Season 3, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. Round number 2 has quickly come around as round number 1's concluded. The last time out, we were in the United Kingdom at the Alton Park International Circuit, seeing our drivers navigate the tight and twisty course in the Cheshire countryside. Well, we stayed in Europe, but we made our way all the way to Italy, to a circuit that is full of undulations and many a sweeping bend. But it's the Italian equivalent, you could say, of Alton Park, with one major difference. The major difference being that it's a much wider circuit with much longer straights, because it is none other than the Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello. And what a circuit it is. 3.25 miles in length and spanning the best part of what is a run of 15 corners. This circuit opened all the way back in 1974 and owned by Scuderia Ferrari since 1988, puts drivers the ultimate test. The aim of the game around here is you've got to use all the track width to your advantage. Every millimetre matters in order to be able to maximise your speed. But on top, as well as being precise, you've got to be brave, because many of these corners require you to brake all the way into the latest possible point to absolutely now the latest of apexes. And in the high-speed sweepers, such as the Arrabbiata 1 and 2 corners, you've got to carry all the speed and be brave at just lifting off the throttle and not touching the brakes whatsoever. But that's not to say there's no overtaking opportunities here, with an extensive start-finish straight spanning the best part of a kilometre, and also multiple shorter stretches over the distance, and small mistakes can absolutely mean huge prizes when it comes to looking for overtaking opportunities, and that is the Mugello circuit in a nutshell. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight on the official at the Sim Racing Collective YouTube channel. Indeed, go to youtube.com and search for TSRC or the Sim Racing Collective, and you can be tuning in there, enjoying the likes of many, including none other than their first and foremost. We say good evening to, and I hope you're doing well, Michelle. It's Michelle Matchett there, cheering on our drivers today, and indeed looking forward to seeing how all the drivers getting on, and indeed we're very excited to see who exactly is going to set the time in Tower Light, not just in qualifying, but of course going racing. And for those who haven't said hi, feel free to say hi. Don't be shy, because the only biting you'll get here today will be on the brakes, so our drivers roar the way around lap after lap. And as we come into tonight's broadcast, well, it is another classic feature race round, which means we only have one race in our schedule, and our schedule for tonight in the UK time zone of Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, is as follows. In approximately what will be about 3 minutes time, we'll make our way into a qualifying session, 10 minutes in duration, all drivers looking to go for gold and put themselves on pole, after which we're making our way immediately to the grid for our 40-minute feature race. Continuing the theme of our regular traditional format in the GT4 Championship of our 40-minute feature races, at least for the first 2 rounds, but next time out, of course, we will be switching things up with our newly introduced sprint format, and that's going to be making up rounds 3 and 5, and more on that in a week's time. But at 8:15 this evening, you'll be seeing our drivers take on the Mugello circuit at full fever and full pace with everybody out there. And when you do have the best part of 28 drivers out on the grid today, at least for now, we may have some more late attendees, it's definitely going to be crowded, and it's going to be exciting. In the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain's Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I should be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the course of the season. But as we then make our way into this second round, let's recap the calendar. And as we can see, last time out it was Alton Park's International Circuit, back on Monday the 10th of November, and there we got to see some absolutely brilliant driving, perhaps none more so than, of course, the host of this series, the Sim Racing Collective, making it a 1-2-3 on the overall pro podium, with Tom Davidson taking victory by controlling the proceedings up front, Kieran Sharp surprising everybody with a little bit of strategy, enabling him to leapfrog his way onto the second spot of the podium, and Andrew Pike having to do things the hard way in batting his way into third place. But will the team be able to absolutely claim the podium once again, or will they see some of their rivals be able to squeeze on through? And the big name, of course, that many will be looking at will be none other than Francesco Petelin, the Italian driver there, who ended up spending plenty of time fighting with his fellow countryman of Alessandro Dalladone. And Francesco was saying to us after the racing last time out, he's absolutely looking forward to this round for the simple reason that this arguably is his home circuit, and he absolutely loves it. And we'll see if that love shines on through. As for in the AM class, what we got to see, it was a very smooth start to the season for Daniel Moffat, who was one step ahead of his rivals every step of the way. However, it'd be unfair to say he was not under some pressure early on in the race, and that pressure initially came from Valerio Petretti, who in the end had a foul mistake coming through Cascade, and that's what meant that he had to settle for third place in the end, as the Manx Racing driver Mark Davenport settled for second, and everyone's going to be chasing Moffat down today as much as possible. But after this round, of course, in round number 3, next time out, we will be at the Virginia International Raceway Full Course Circuit, and that's where we'll have our first of our 2 sprint race rounds on Monday, the 24th of November. And after that, it'll be Circuit Zolder in Belgium, followed up by a return to the United States of America at the Sonoma Raceway Circuit, and we'll bring the curtain down the 15th of December at Mount Panorama Raceway in Australia. But talking about our circuit for today then, well, it's none other than the Grand Prix layout of the Mugello circuit. Located near the city of Scarpiera e San Piero, in the province of Florence, in the Tuscany region of Italy, well, this circuit perhaps lesser appreciated on the international stage compared to how it should be, and having played host to the Tuscany Formula 1 Grand Prix in recent years, and indeed playing host on a regular basis to the likes of European TSRC GT4 racing. You name it, it's raced here, where it's on 4 wheels and 2. One absolutely lovely circuit to race around, and a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely brilliant track mats that come with it. But the problem with a 2-dimensional image is it doesn't show you all the elevation changes, which are absolutely packed into its 3.25 mile length, and as the drivers roar the way around here, they'll have to contest those just as much as they will the absolute runner sweeping bends, with the interesting combination being a lot of low-speed hairpin-style corners, such as San Donato at turn number 1, and also Correnta at turn number 12, and Bulsine at turn number 15, but they have plenty of camber woven into the corners, where the idea is you actually want to carry more speed compared to what you expect, and then they give way to what is normally a set of sweepers, typically left into right combinations, where it be turns 2 and 3, turns 4 and 5, or 6 and 7, where it's right into left, but then you do have the fast right-hand sweeper of Arrabbiata 1 and 2, the 2 fastest corners of the circuit, and as the drivers make the way out to turns 8 and 9, it'll be uphill the way before they make the way into Scarpiera and Palladiccio corner of turn 10 and 11, and before then it'll be Correnta at turn number 12, downhill the X'd out there, through the Biondetti of turns 1 and 2, at turns 13 and 14, and they'll make the way into Bulsine to complete the lap and do it all over again, but not without roaring the way down that start-finish straight and heading upwards in the best region of 160 miles per hour by the time they get back to turn 1 once more. But as for our rules, before we go racing, well, this is a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every round, and they are all restricted depending on which car, and therefore it does mean that all the drivers are on a level playing field with the balance of performance between the GT4 machines. In terms of qualifying, well, closed qualifying format is being used. It's just got underway, and we'll cut into that shortly, with drivers having free flying laps available, as well as their out lap. As for the feature race, well, each driver shall have 1 fast repair available in the race, with a driver receiving a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 more instant points, and all race shooting shall be conducted post-round. But we are expecting pit stops in the races, and that will be for fuel, not necessarily for tyres. But back to circuit side we go. But before we talk about qualifying, let's talk a little bit about our championship points coming into this round, starting with the pros. And as we can see, that winner for Tom Davidson gives him an early advantage of 30 points to his teammates from TSRC Esports of Kieran Sharp and Andrew Pike, with Felix Smoggy for Cracked Racing sitting in 4th place, ahead of the Italian jobs Alessandro Dalladone, who in the end was able to frustrate Francesco Petalin and force the Absolute Motorsport ASIF driver to finish in 6th. But keep your eyes out for him, because he's the one who really wants to try and prove to everyone he can take a win here today. Martin Blankensteiner sits in 7th ahead of Matt Cheverton, with Marlon Schwab there for DLR FP1 having a difficult day and having to settle for a 9th place finish ahead of Alan McCain. And outside your top 10 behind the Irish Esports driver, it's Mav Garner, who's best to rest in 11th for TSRC Esports. Head of Altura Esports is Miles Owens, with Ivan Falcon, Bart Raven, and then Nick Clibbins and Sam Smith completing those who've got points. And yet to score any points in the pro class, we do have Bobby Ross, and also then none other than Lucas Sauer, Louis Hesketh, and Craig Twardock. As for the AM class, here we can see the complexion. Well, it's Daniel Moffat who leads the way, the privateer, head of Manx Racing's Mark Davenport, with Valerio Petretti there rounding off your podium so far for the Italian job. And then we do have Clive Bourne and Craig Murphy for Big Pig Racing by VRS and Manx Racing. And they're not too far behind, as the Isle of Man racing team has been formed as of this round. They were privateers coming into this round, well, coming into the previous round, I should say, for Davenport and Murphy. But they both realised the fact they both hail from the same country, and therefore they decide to team up there. So we've got a new force on the grid, and we look forward to seeing whether that force is able to make it a 1-2, perhaps stay in the AM class. Lenny Hansen sits in 6th for Bottle Job Racing by a single point over Martin Rendell, with Rendell having a day that definitely did not go his way whatsoever, and Lenny Hansen, meanwhile, he didn't have the pace, but he had the consistency. Palamaniti sits in 8th ahead of fellow Italian countryman of Francesco Cardulio, and the Passione course driver then gives way to Paul Sims, who completes your top 10. Best of rest is Valerio Tedeschi in 11th place ahead of Vincenzo Corillo, and then we do have the last of the points finishers there, Luke Smith for FD Racing, with yet to score any points, Nico Martinuso ahead of Joe Pinder, and it's Roman Shvetsov ahead of Stefan Hutter with Mickey Ford, and with that, Patrick Den completes your 19 driver AM championship after one round. So that's a quick recap of the championship standings then coming into this round. And well, without further ado, ladies and gents, qualifying is in full effect. And let's start to talk a little bit about what's going on there in qualifying. As we're starting to get those first laps on the board, Tom Davidson and Kieran Sharp being the very early eager beavers in this qualifying session. And meanwhile, here comes Valerio Pedretti, the AM driver, who's going to be one of the very first AM drivers to get a lap on the board. But what's this going to be? We will wait and see as he roars and romps his way down the start-finish straight. And looking quite consistent at the moment as he heads in towards the braking zone. But as he does so, we say hello there to a member of the Sim Racing Collective community. That's Numbers, and good evening to you, good sir. And I must admit, I'm not completely familiar with everybody's nicknames at the moment, so therefore I won't be able to address you by your actual name there, but I hope you're doing well and excited for tonight. Indeed, all drives very eager to go race. I can tell you one thing, the Fever, when they got told that Mugello was on the calendar for this season, everyone looked up and indeed eyebrows were raised thinking, really? Is it going to be on the schedule? Because if so, that's absolutely fantastic. And these road cars turned into race cars, and it was poetically put in the chat last time out, the fact that these cars are 80% road car and 20% race car, with the race car aspect really being the removal of all the weight inside the car, all the unnecessary accessories, plus also the addition of that rather large rear wing and the carbon ceramic brake discs and the racing tyres, the racing slick tyres here. Well, these cars will go around here like a dream because they have the best part of 450 brake horsepower, they're quite lightweight, normally weighing in somewhere in the region of about 1.3 tonnes, and as they roar the way around, well, right now Pedretti amongst many drivers all showing exactly what they could do. But right now, your driver's yet to score any good laps on the board because he's yet to actually put a lap together. It's Mark Davenport. He's on his first line lap right now, as he winds his way very gradually here through the Pacine corner at turn number 15, with the lovely runoff area there denoting the Italian flag, as he makes his way outwards on towards the timeline. The Manx Racing driver's now got some tyre temperature, and without further ado, let's jump aboard and get a reference lap from a Mercedes AMG GT4 driver. So down the start-finish straight he goes, taking a little bit of grass with it for good measure as he gets ready for turn number 1. Straight lining all the way through the bend and the straight, and onto the brakes he goes. Hard on the anchors all the way down from top gear to second gear. Carry the speed at 90 kilometers an hour. He hits the apex now, builds up. Keep the car over to the right because it's into turns 2 and 3 here. Left into right. Take plenty of curb, but not too much to touch the sausages. Those yellow sausage curves, they'll upset the car and cause it to understeer wide, or alternatively go spinning around on exit, depending on how high you hit them. He now turns 2 and 3. Now into another medium speed chicane. At turns 4 and 5 here. Left into right he goes, holding third gear. Patience is a virtue, and he does it very well using the runoff area there and exit, which he's allowed to do. And now down to turns 6 and 7 here. It's downhill sweeping. Plenty of off camber as he comes down, and it continues here into turn number 7. And now it's all about getting the car to the left-hand side as quickly as you can to open up Arrabbiata 1. Lift off the throttle. Don't brake. Just simply lift off the throttle and let the car gradually come around. Feed the throttle back in. And the same here for turn number 9 at Arrabbiata 2 as he rides the apex curb there and uses the road whip to his advantage. And now into the braking zone here, unsighted over the crest, and into turn number 10. And down to second gear, right-hander into left-hander. Next time around, I think he might consider going in third gear there for the start of the chicane. But as he exits out all the runoff curb being used and looks to his left-hand side, looking for the 100-meter board, and onto the brakes he goes. Nice and early for Davenport, and it's not because he's afraid of the corner, but because it's a downhill braking zone. And out he comes then, and as he does from turn number 12 into 13 and 14, here it's completely flat out every step of the way on the perfect line, and Davenport absolutely nails it as he now makes his way over to the right-hand side for the final time on this lap to brake for turn number 15. Looks for his marker at what is the 50-meter board there for the start of the corner. Down to third gear. Now start to build the throttle up. Build it, and now blast off he goes as he makes it out the corner. And that's a lovely enter lap there from Davenport. But is it good enough to put him up towards the very front of what is the qualifying order in the AM class with one more lap available to him? Yet to get a lap on the board. And the number 16 driver here across that timeline, and it is provisional and pole there from Davenport. A smooth lap, and well, that puts him on a 57.2. Lovely work there from him, a 2.24 to be precise. But look at this, a 56.363 right now. Tom Davidson, well, if anybody was wondering, was Alton Park a blip? The Sim Racing Collective Esports driver screams out, it was not a blip. I can prove to you once again that I can take pole position. And Davidson there absolutely delivering on his final qualifying lap, as meanwhile, Felix Smoggy there in the cracked racing Ford Mustang today with a lovely livery there in reference to Ford performance. Well, as he makes his way off through the quarters right now, it does look as though the 284 driver is on a cool-down lap here, and he's going to settle for second, but he'll be very happy with that, as we do have Alessandro Dalladoni in his BMW M4 G82. The Italian job driver crosses the timeline, and he puts himself into 5th place as Francesco Petlin goes second off camera. Petlin does a great job there in his own BMW for Ace Lift Motorsport, and as he roars his way out, well, right now Now the 992 driver there for Absolute Motorsport Acelift. Let's get the team name right. Well, he's not quite been able to take that pole position, but I think he'll be happy with the fact he puts himself on the front row of the grid, and he'll be looking to try and create a bit of a redemption arc out of this race compared to Alton Park. But Mark Davenport's still on a lap to go here, and the provisional and pole sitter for Manx Racing, I think he's very eager to try and go even further here. Can he get himself even further up the running order? Now keep in mind, of course, points are scored based on class finishing position, regardless of whether you're pro or am. They're not scored based on overall finishing position, but it doesn't stop you as an AM driver wanting to get higher in amongst the pros, particularly when you're the AM pole sitter, so that way you force your rivals, particularly Daniel Moffat in this instance, championship leader coming into tonight, you force them to have to do more work in order to try and find their way towards you and hunt you down as a result. And well, Daniel Moffat is going to have the close company of Francesco Cordulio, who is only going to start the best part of 3 places behind him. Moffat will be 10th, meanwhile Cordulio will be 13th. Davenport comes across the timeline, and what's it going to be this time? The answer is it's no improvement, and that is qualified complete, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes goes as quick as that, and it is time to make our way to the grid. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid for our second round of the season, this is how they line up at the Autodromo International del Mugello for round number 2 of the Sim Racing Collective GT4 Series Season 3 as brought to you on iRacing. Tom Davidson makes it another pole position. Can anything stop this man is the big question, and the answer seems to be no at the moment as he lines up on pole here, and a brilliant effort from him as he looks to get set to go away. But can he go away for the rest of the field, or will the field pull him back in? Francesco Petrolin there, the Absolute Motorsport Acelift driver who was gutted to finish 6th after qualifying so well and doing so well in the early stage of the race. The Italian driver there will be starting on the front row once again. But this time it won't be Dalladoni who's going to give him company from 3rd place. It'll be Felix Smoggy for Cracked Racing, who lines up in your 2nd row of the grid in the company of Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who in his own words completely surprised himself with an awful qualifying session and managed to pull it around with regards to that absolutely brilliant run in the race at Alton Park, and using strategy to his advantage, that's how he was able to gain the best part of 9 places over the race distance. But the McLaren driver here today, from 4th place of the grid, he'll think that it's a bit more of a straightforward race here, but we'll have to wait and see. Alessandro Dalladone starts in 5th place there for the Italian job. Great effort from him, and he was 2.5 tenths faster than Craig Twardock, who begins the day 6th place there for MSA Racing. But the wonderful thing about Craig, of course, in his BMW, you can never count him out. He always finds a way now to be inside the top 10 on this grid ever since the MX-5 series, and that's why we're excited to see what he can do from row number 3. On row 4, it's going to be Mark Davenport there, who starts 7th for Manx Racing. The Isle of Man driver there takes a maiden pole position in the AM class of this season, and indeed puts an absolutely huge statement out there that right now he's got the pace here today, but can he run away with it? Because between him and Daniel Moffat, who starts 10th, the privateer, you do have Jack Southfield, who starts his day 8th on the grid for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and then we do have Marlon Schwab for DLR FP1, the German driver there, starts on the 5th row of the grid. With Moffat then completing your top 10, the second of the AM drivers, we then come back to the pros, and it is Matt Cheverton for Aztec Racing who begins the day best of the rest in 11th, ahead of Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports. Behind them on the grid, starting on row number 7, it will be none other than Francesco Cordulio, and he will be there for Passion of Course, ahead of Martin Blankensteiner for Cracked Racing. Great effort from Cardulio in particular, in the fact taking 3rd place in the AM class there, and indeed a very different run of form compared to what we saw last time out at Alton Park, where the circuit just seemed to frustrate him to a degree. Blankensteiner, however, compared to Alton Park, it does seem as though he's not been able to find the upper hand when it comes to this wonderful Mugello circuit. But from him, on row number 8, it will then be Sam Smith for iRacing Esports, ahead of Mav Garner for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. And then we have on row number 9, Valerio Petretti, the Italian job driver. Well, he's definitely got to try and find the ultimate bank heist here today if he wants to rob the AM drivers in front of him of victory, because that's not where he wanted to start it, all the way down in 17th place and 4th in the class, and given how close he was to that pole position last time out at Alton Park. You'll have Miles Owens for company there for Altura Esports, and then we do have Bart Raven for Cracked Racing, and Paul Sims, the privateer, completing your top 20. Outside the top 20, it's going to be none other there than Craig Murphy, who begins the day in 21st place for Manx Racing, and well, he's a bit of a way away from his teammate, but to be fair, he might be able to try and come through the field, and did a bit of a frustrating day at Alton Park with a few bumps and scrapes costing him dear, but he'll be hoping not for that today. Nor will Lenny Hansen for Bottle Job Racing, who begins his day from 22nd on the grid. From the number 7 car, it's to the 33 of Martin Rendell, who starts 23rd, head of Paolo Maniti, who begins the day 24th, and then we do have on row number 13, our penultimate row of the grid, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Valerio Tedeschi, the privateer, with Mickey Ford Ford for FD Racing and the company of his teammate Luke Smith. They line up 27th and 28th. And well, to be fair, it's not about how you start the day, it's about how you end the day. Both drivers gradually gaining pace. We saw that at Alton Park. Could Ford and Smith make the way through the field in the FD Racing machines? Those wonderful white and blue machines you see behind the grid chart right now. Well, actually 28-car field, ladies and gentlemen. It's definitely going to be an intriguing race. We have got a whole formation lap here in which to appreciate as our drivers make the way around right now. But as we do jump on board with other drivers here in particular, we jump on board with Alessandro Dalladone. Well, he's going to be feeling quite happy with how the car's set up and the fact that he set himself up for quite a good bit of success. But as he weaves and winds his way, it is a long formation lap. 3.25 miles, goes quite quickly when you're running around here, an average lap speed in excess of 100 kilometers an hour. But when you are behind the pace car, well, you're not allowed to go any faster than the predefined speed. And you can see it there in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, the dashboard there saying that he's managing a speed in the region of 75 kilometers an hour right now. Well, it's a very different complexion here, but they'll be weaving as much from side to side, trying to get as much lateral tyre temperature as possible, also trying to get some brake temperature around here. Remember, we are for this season has seen the new GT4 tyre and physics models both in effect to iRacing for this championship, and what it does mean is that these cars are nowhere near as stable as they once were. Likened to driving a boat or a bathtub previously, these cars now are very lively on the rear axle, particularly when you do look at some of the cars on these fixed setups such as the BMW M4s and also the Mercedes AMG, and that means you have to work them hard to get the tyres up to temperature, and then you have to be quite careful and sensitive to the attitude of the car. So that's where you've seen all this weaving, because they want as much temperature before they go racing. And well, all the drivers right now getting themselves set as they come towards the halfway point of this formation lap. A bit further back, of course, we have got an absolutely crowded Anfield in the bottom end of the top 20, including Paul Sims and Craig Murphy together, 5th and 6th in class, with Lenny Hansen and Martin Rendell together. Indeed, that's going to make it intriguing as to where exactly their fighting is going to start and where it's going to end. I suspect the fighting is going to run for a long distance over the race here, and it's not going to be over in short order. Looking to the very back of the field, there is Luke Smith right now, taking his time for FD Racing in the 174. That lovely livery on that beautiful McLaren 570S. And the McLaren has been mostly retired from real-life racing now. It has been replaced by none other than the McLaren Artura, but we still do have some 570Ss racing around the world, particularly in the likes of the Brit Car Endurance Championship, for example, where they do feature the machine under Team Brit. But right now, as the 174 driver brings it together, he'll be looking to channel his inner Team Brit here today and try to strive for success, much like they have done over many a year. But the British driver here brings up the rest of the field, and well, his teammate Mickey Ford, meanwhile on the other line, is closed up a little bit as it seems like a couple of drivers slightly out of pace and formation. But meanwhile, at the very front of the field, there is Francesco Petrolin. He will start effectively on the outside down towards turn number 1, but the man who starts on the inside, on the left of your picture there, Tom Davidson in the Sim Racing Collective Mercedes AMG. Well, very shortly he's going to find it's a very long run down towards turn number 1, and he gets to choose exactly when we do go green flag race here at Mugello for round number 2, ladies and gentlemen, of the Sim Racing Collective GT4 Series Season 3. And it's lights out, away we go then for round number 2. Tom Davidson leaves it to the last possible moment, and here we go as they roar their way down towards turn number 1. The whole field immediately tries to crowd him over towards the inside of the circuit, all trying to get into the toe and fight hard. But as they come down to the braking zone, the Ford Mustang there, Felix Smoggy getting very nice and tight as around the outside looks Petrolin trying to go for the move nice and early. We've got a car running wide there. That's Petrolin who's been escorted out into the gravel. A couple more cars as well as the fog tries to hide what's going on racing wise. But as all the field now sweeps its way in towards turns 2 and 3 for the first time today. Mark Davenport's had a reasonable start. Oh, that's sideways there for Martin Schwab. The Porsche driver goes sideways across the front of the whole field. Somehow they all avoid making contact, but Schwab goes spinning off the road, and with it he's going to lose places. Jack Salford makes his debut today in that Aston Martin just in front, and right now Sim Racing the Collective Esports driver, he's getting 2 places already. He's going to go to third here as he gets at the inside of his teammate as they make the way through, but meanwhile there's been even more drama as we've got many drivers there all having it go wrong. There's a number of cars with damaged suspensions, and we've got a yellow flag, and with it we have got a safety car. So they will race up towards the start finish line, ladies and gentlemen, and after that all the fighting will stop immediately, and that is because there's been a huge incident coming all the way through turns 4 and 5 and up towards 6 and 7. We can see Mark Davenport there going up the inside of several cars here. And I think right now they're all just trying to adjust to what's going on and the damage they've picked up on their cars respectively. But the racing will be neutralised by the time we come around toward the end of this first lap. And in fact, I think we may see the neutraliser of the racing immediately here with the automated safety car. And Mark Davenport immediately backing off and giving back the places that he took there, realising he wasn't allowed to take them. So the racing stops. And we do have Daniel Moffat and Luke Smith have both towed to the pits. We have got the proverbial meatball flag for several drivers, including Lenny Hansen. You can see here in the Bottle Job Racing BMW M4, the whole front right of the car has collapsed over the wheel, and it looks like the suspension there has dropped in the bodywork with it. So Hansen's had a bit of a nightmare. We've also had a nightmare for Valerio Tedeschi, as he's in a similar situation. He's missing a front bumper as well. So there's been a lot of drama, but the big question we need an answer to is what exactly has led to this drama? Well, thankfully, as our leaders make their way down the start-finish straight to pick up the safety car, and they will be behind it for a minimum of 2 laps here, so that does bite into a significant amount of our race time. But the strategists will be very quickly at work with the calculators, trying to figure out exactly what this means in terms of the fuel stop they're expected to make. We're not expecting it to completely eradicate the need for a pit stop, but it definitely could shorten that pit stop down to a literal splash and dash of no more than 5 to 10 seconds of pit time in terms of how long you're stationary there. But after 1 lap, with all the drama, it's still Tom Davidson then who leads after starting the pole, ahead of Felix Smoggy, who is in second. Craig Twardock has jumped his way from 6th to 3rd. Brilliant start from him, ahead of Alessandro Dalladone, who's in 4th. Jack Southfield has moved to 5th, and then we have Kieran Sharp, who's dropped 2 places down to 6th place. Hasn't quite worked out for him whatsoever, and well, he'll be a bit frustrated at that one, with Matt Cheverton in 7th, ahead of your AM leader now, of Francesco Cardulo, who the home hero in the number 75. He'll be very pleased at how he's made his way through for Passione course. We'll try to get an understanding of how that's happened. And then it's Sam Smith in 9th place, ahead of Martin Blankensteiner, with Bart Raven making up the best part of 8 places since the start of the race. A brilliant start from him, and he's all the way up to 11th place, with Mav Gardner in 12th just behind him. And then you have Mark Davenport, who picked up some damage in the Manx racing at Mercedes AMG, but he's second to the AMs, ahead of Craig Murphy, his teammate, who's come absolutely barreling through the field, starting all the way down to 21st place. So Manx Racing, to be fair, they may have lost the lead of the AM class, but they've now got 2 drivers inside the top 3. So technically, it actually has in a way worked out for them, and they know they've only got 1 driver they need to chase after. But enough talking about the here and now. Let's talk about what happened, and we take a look back right at the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen. And here is the replay to the green flag. So this was how it all got away, and our initial attention is going to be on Francesco Petalin as he went green flag racing. So it was Tom Davidson who waited as long as possible, and then suddenly all the field fans out there knowing it is time to go racing, and Petalin around the outside here. Now, did he make a mistake of his own volition, or did he get caught up in a bit of contact? He had the nose ahead coming into turn 1, but on the outside line, you've got to be brave here, and under braking, I think he carried too much speed. Cold tyres, and the car just understeered away. The absolute motorsport ace of driver gutted that. I think he felt as though he was going to get it done, and there was also a car off the road behind him, but he rejoined. And meanwhile, what exactly happened to Nick Clibbins? So this was Clibbins coming down to the braking zone. The RS Esports driver there on the outside of, well, in the middle of a 3 wide, and the Porsche driver being turned there as a result of some contact in the dinosaur machine. And unfortunately, his opportunity to take the lead of the AM class has now been turned into prehistoric era history. But meanwhile, as he gets it back together, and well, what made the dinosaurs extinct has made his opportunity to win the race extinct, you thought initially, but you never know, to be fair, what could happen. This is what happened to Martin Rendell as he made his way into turns 2 and 3. There may have been a bit of contact there with the RS Esports Mercedes AMG, potentially. I think that might have been the Mercedes of Alan McCain. Can we get on board with McCain in that? Yes, we can. This was McCain's perspective. And a small tap there to the rear of Rendell's car, and he was ping-ponged around with Lenny Hansen's car, and that led to all the drama. But we're going to stay on board with McCain because somebody got sent to the gravel there. That was Marlon Schwab who got sent out wide. And then this was McCain still following through, and he's going to see a huge incident in front of him very shortly at turns 4 and 5. Up the inside was the Porsche driver there, and on the brakes, Mercedes in front gets it on. There's 2 incidents separately at the same time. So that was one. Oh my good lord, the Taco Bell BMW literally reappearing. That's not when you want to see Taco Bell, right in the middle of the road. And well, as everyone made the way through, multiple cars off there, I suspect, with damage. Now, who exactly end up in what incident? That's the question. This was Mav Gardner then. He was in the Sim Racing Collective Esports D2 AMG, and as he made his way out, car went spinning behind him. Daniel Moffat, I think, was the driver who went around and was right in the epicenter of that, and Mark Davenport had to take evasive action. This was the replay of then Moffat as he made his way through, and as he did so, does he get it wrong of his own volition here? No, he doesn't. He takes evasive action, and that was the car, I think, the Mercedes AMG that got caught very sideways there, and well, that explains what exactly happened, and I believe that might have been misery for our Mercedes driver, trying to discern who that was, and we couldn't quite see there, but definitely all went wrong, and that explains the story. And we also did have this for Valerio Tedeschi, as he made his way down the hill and indeed avoiding all the chaos, but as he then made his way into Arabiata 1, contact there with the Mercedes AMG, and that was contact with Luke Smith, and I think a bit of a misunderstanding with regards to the yellow flag and the safety car with it, and not knowing exactly what to do, so I think that's confused a few drivers there. But as we now come back to your live racing, well, a lot of drivers have made their way into the pit lane, and we have suddenly got Mickey Ford all the way out to the very front. However, he's decided not to pit, whereas everybody else has, as we are onto our second lap behind the safety car here, and I suspect the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Now, everybody is coming in for the simple reason, I think they've expected only need to be in the pits for approximately what would be 2 laps worth of fuel here today, and all their calculators on the pit wall in terms of all the team strategists will have been kicking and screaming and saying, get into the pits now, this is a free pit stop essentially, but Mickey Ford has decided to stay out there, so he now leads with Lenny Hansen for company alongside him. There's been a huge shuffle here as a result, so somehow in all the pit stops and all the madness that's unfolded, Hansen, to be fair, I believe is still out there, although he has repaired the car, but he's in fact dropping down the order now as Hansen, so he's given up a place there to Tom Davidson. I wonder if the field is still being shuffled around a little bit, but it does look as though the bottom job racing driver might have gained as a result of what has been this safety car window and also the pit stop. Although saying that, I think he is now potentially given some places up here, and they are trying to sort the order back out on what will be one of the final laps of this safety car, and well, hopefully it'll be the last one, because we'd love to see plenty of racing, but this is definitely going to turn what was a 40-minute feature race into much more of a 30-minute sprint, although we're not complaining, because that's going to mean that the thresholds for going for victory are going to be ever tighter. But they are just sorting everybody out at the moment. But the one thing we can tell you is that Mickey Ford is rightly your race leader at the moment, and the FD Racing driver is not going to quite believe that he's leading. The only thing is he's leading over Oinam, but he's not leading on strategy because of the fact he's decided not to pit. But this might help him out, because if we do have, theoretically, another safety car, or if we were to see an evolution of the conditions, although I don't think we're going to be seeing any rain here today, we have had the word that it is going to be dry conditions all the way through the day, compared by basing it on our weather report. Well, right now, Mickey Ford essentially has put himself right up the front, and I think he's perhaps praying that there's going to be another safety car at some point, and if so, another safety car around here could theoretically extend the race to the point whereby he wouldn't need to come into the pits for fuel. That's what he's gambled on here. He's decided to throw all his chips on the table, as everybody else decided to go for black. He's decided to go for red, metaphorically speaking, and we'll have to see whether being a gambling man is going to pay off, as all the way at the back of the field is Francesco Petalin, who right now has got to try and come through from 25th place in order to chase down major points in the pro class. And he has been a very frustrating race for the absolute motorsport ace-lift driver, and that frustration is not going away. We do have Daniel Moffat, he's in the pack, but he is effectively a lap down, and Luke Smith, well, I believe the car is in the pit lane being repaired, as it is for Valerio Tedeschi. So we've had heartbreak for several drivers, but also a big gamble for others here, and some have stayed exactly where they were, such as Tom Davidson. He's still your pro leader, albeit he's second. But as they make the way around for turn number 15, the lights are still on the safety car, so I believe we are going to spend another lap behind the safety car here, and surely if you're Mickey Ford right now for FD Racing, you've got to be believing the longer that safety car stays out, you may have pulled off something magical. We've already burned essentially now what will be 8 minutes behind the safety car. Another safety car lap, that is going to cost us what will be the best part of another 4 minutes. He is getting towards the region here. If we base it off of Alton Park, where he could do this on a no-stop strategy, and he may now have just gifted himself the lead of the AM class. The safety car lights are off. That means it will be in at the end of the next lap, and there you can see the lap times on the timing tower. An average lap time there of approximately 4 minutes. Ford, if he fuel saves a little bit, I reckon he could do this, ladies and gentlemen. He could suddenly find his way, taking victory in the AM class, or give himself the best possible chance, and he'll have done it without pitting by just simply hoping that for the duration that the safety car is going to run, it's long enough to be able to force the race into a potential no-stop window. We look to Francesco Cardulo, the second of your AM drivers here, and he's all the way up in 9th place. He's catapulted himself up the order, but where they've been some of the biggest gainers, well, the Manx Racing team of Craig Murphy and Mark Davenport, they'll be thinking to themselves right now, this has not quite worked out a treat, because they were second and third before the safety car came out, but due to all the pit stops and the madness in the pit lane, suddenly they've fallen to third and fourth. But then again, they'll know there's plenty of time to go in this race, and they might just be able to make some magic happen. And it was Mark Davenport who we saw sideways earlier on and picking up that damage in that contact with Daniel Moffat. And, well, unfortunately, Daniel Moffat's race has been relegated effectively a lap down. The same for Luke Smith, who is at the very back of this field. But Moffat and Smith are both a lap off the lead pack. And they find themselves right in the middle of it. So there's going to be blue flags waving aplenty by the time they go green flag racing. And that now is really going to be an exercise in frustration. And what they'll be hoping is that they can potentially unlap themselves later on in the race. Now, we do say hello there to none other than Johnny Woo, who says, how are the Cracked Menaces getting on? And, well, at the moment, it's a bit of mixed fortunes for Cracked Racing, because Bart Raven, he sits in 12th place, or 10th in the Pro class. He gradually makes his way around behind Sam Smith there in the iRacing Bilstein-powered BMW. But Raven here, well, he's gained plenty of places since the start, both overall and in class. He's all the way up from 15th in Pro to 10th in Pro, or what has been a run from 19th to 12th overall. But I think he was hoping that perhaps he could get himself into the top 10 a little bit earlier. Felix Smoggy, meanwhile, he's right at the other end of the spectrum, right towards the front of the field for Cracked Racing. The German driver in the Ford Mustang GT4, well, he's currently in fourth. He was third at one point, and he would be third, theoretically, if not for the pesky AM driver who's leading the race at the moment. So therefore, he'll be hoping that he can make his way a bit further forward. And in all of it, a little bit further down, we do have some other Cracked Racing drivers out there. And well, as we look a little bit further back to Miles Owens for Altura Esports, he's also been one of the relatively modest gainers as a result of the safety car. He's moved all the way up to 14th overall and 12th in Pro. And a quick reminder, of course, if you're wondering how you can tell who's in which class, you just need to look to the time and tout or the driver name at the bottom of the screen. If it's got a silver slash against it, that means they're Pro. Oh, goodness me, hold up a second, that's Matt Cheverton. Cheverton's got around behind the safety car. And, well, something's gone very wrong there for the Aztec Racing driver. Can we get a quick replay to explain? I think we can, as he tries to get himself back up through the field under safety car conditions. This was Cheverton then, and coming in towards what was turns 9 and 10, and as he did so, just got a little bit eager with the throttle, then too much steering, cold tyres, the car went spinning around. Oh my goodness, the car rolling around, but the field did very well to take evasive action, and Matt Cheverton there, well, that could have been far, far worse. But in the end, he was able to avoid what could have been an absolute disaster to his race, and he's been able to go back to where he should be in this running order, which is 7th, as the field now goes into single file formation, and at the very front of it is FD Racing's Mickey Ford. And if you were to ask him coming into this round, would he have predicted he would lead the pack away on the restart, he would have said to you, no, I wouldn't believe you. But right now, the FD Racing driver, leader overall, and also in AM, is only seconds away from getting us racing once again here at the Mugello circuit. And so Ford controls the field, and there he goes. He leaves it nice and late, and we are back to green flag racing for the remaining 25.5 minutes here, ladies and gentlemen, as Mickey Ford right now tries to hold on to lead, but knows he's got to no-stop this. Behind Daladoni, immediately getting a brilliant reaction, as it's going to be free wide into the braking zone here, almost for turn number one. Daladoni looking around the outside. Meanwhile, there's been Davidson back up the inside, car out wide there. That's going to be the Passione course machine, and as it goes wide, Cardulo still there, car spinning round. That is going to be the iRacing Esports car of Sam Smith. Just way down. Oh no! And that's going to be Mark Davenport. Davenport is ejected out sideways again. And we've got another yellow flag. We've got another safety car with all the chaos that's unfolding. Cars across the gravel, literally left, right, and centre. Is that Tom Davidson who's gone sideways? Yes, it is. And well, this race is proving to be absolutely full of drama right now. You could not make this up as drivers rejoin. And that's the leader. Mickey Ford has gone spinning around after the restart. He rejoins just on the path there of a bumperless BMW in the form, I believe, of none other than Miles Owens, and what was looking to be potentially an absolute miracle result for Mickey Ford has gone all the way backwards. But how on earth has that happened? Indeed, it all came to a halt again within the space of 3 corners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will get a replay of that very shortly, but of course keeping in mind that a lot of drivers in the opening lap instant will have used their fast repairs, and therefore anybody who picks up damage at this point, they're going to have to spend what will be several minutes repairing the car, particularly if it's bodywork that's come off or suspension damage. So right now you can't afford to pick up damage, particularly if you're involved in those open lap altercations. But without further ado, we do go looking back, as I stumble over my words, to what happened there at the restart. And, well, in terms of the restart, we go all the way back to when Mickey Ford got us underway. So as the field got themselves set and ready to go, well, Ford decided to leave it as late as possible, and we're going to be focusing on Tom Davidson in this scenario as he made his way away, and we saw Daniel Moffat there immediately step aside and respect the blue flags. He can't fight because he's a lap down theoretically, but Davidson here got into the middle of the road and went side by side there with Daladone, and as they headed in towards the opening corner, looked all the way out the inside and seemed to get the place. But what happened after this? Because this is when all the drama unfolded. There was plenty behind, but what happened into turn number 2? It got very close. 3 wide there at the apex. Ford found himself swamped. Davidson spun of his own accord, and in the end the whole field came up through. Contact there between Ford and what was Smoggy, and further contact afterwards, but Davidson making a mistake of his own doing and going all the way round. Meanwhile, this was Sam Smith at turn number 1, as we did see the Pashona course car getting elbowed out there by Moffat, who was just trying to steer clear. Smith made a mistake of his own doing, got the power down too soon with too much steering lock, so that's how he went spinning on the round, and in the end got out of the way. We then did have drama, of course, for none other than what was Mark Davenport. He got escorted off the road at what was turn number 2 on the entry up the hill. This was Miles Owens, Valtura Esports. He's missed the front bumper, but how did he lose it? Well, he lost the car coming through the corner, and in the end, does he get clipped on the front? The answer is yes, he does. Lenny Hansen there could not take evasive action in time, and that's how Miles Owens lost his front bumper, and Hansen went with him. For Mark Davenport, meanwhile, this was the on board with Davenport, so avoids the wayward machine of Owens, made his way up the hill, and as he went into the braking zone, oh, somebody's hit Davenport there and sent him all the way round. Was that the Irish Esports car of Alan McCain that sent the Manx Racing car spinning towards the barrier? I'm not quite sure, but what I can tell you is it's got very roll for him, as Alessandro Dalladone also got it all out of sorts as well. We look to Mav Gardner. Meanwhile, what happened to him? He managed to avoid one wayward car, and as he made his way into turns 2 and 3, lost the rear there, just took too much speed on cold tyres. Cold tyres really been the bane of everybody's existence, it would seem. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the big story of the restart of the race. But we are back to your live pictures once again. And as we now have Felix Smoggy for Cracked Racing leading, while as he makes his way on around right now, the safety car's still got its lights on, and well, it's got quite a bit of time before it does get to the line, after which it has to declare whether we are going green flag racing or not. But we are on the 2nd lap behind the safety car in this safety car period. We're now doing 4 laps behind the safety car in total, well, 5 laps behind the safety car in total, I should say. And, well, nobody has yet to pit. Everybody decided to come into the pit other than what was Mickey Ford on that opening safety car period. But right now, this is going to be essentially a standard race at this point. There is no alternative strategy other than simply beat your rivals out there, because everyone has already pitted and taken on the fuel they think they need to get to the finish. But what has now shuffled is that Felix Smoggy is your leader, Alessandro Dalladone is up into 2nd place, the Italian job, and Kieran Sharp, well, he definitely has his wits about him, because the McLaren driver is back into 3rd for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. These are all pro drivers, I should say, and with Jack Southfield up into 4th place. Indeed, right now, a debut for Southfield in this season. He's been on the grid in several Sim Racing Collective Series over the past couple of years, but right now, if this is how you make your debut, which you don't really, you take 2 places off the start of the race, but after that you just gain them by staying out of trouble and making sure to pick them off as the safety car periods come out. Well, right now the number 98 driver here is showing that whilst everybody else is playing checkers, he's playing high-speed chess, as Matt Cheverton, meanwhile, tucks in behind. He's come all the way through from 11th place on the grid to 5th place right now, ahead of Craig Twardock, who's still 6th. He started there, and that's where he is still for MSA Racing. And then you have your AM leader, Francesco Cardulo, right behind him, with Martin Blankenstein all the way up to 8th, ahead of Bart Raven. And, well, the Cracked Racing driver in the BMW M4, he's enjoyed a very happy race up into 9th, or 8th in Pro, 10 places overall, 7 in class. And right now, I think he's going to be very happy with the fact that he's been able to just carve his way through. Unfortunately for Manx Racing, it's going to be a bit of a bittersweet feeling here because of the fact they've got Craig Murphy up into second in class with Paolo Maniti right behind, who started 9th in AM. The Ford Mustang driver there in the very notable blue and black Ford Mustang, the privateer from Italy. He will be very happy to have made his way through. Meanwhile, Mark Davenport is behind Paul Sims here. Both drivers have lost a few places, but Davenport the most of all the AMs, and that is going to be absolutely frustrating, but expect him to carve his way through the field. But the big question as we look back to the front of the field, as we do see Johnny Wu saying that Felix Smoggy thrives in chaos, it is known. Well, does he know how to get this race restarted happily? And is it known whether we're going green flag racing or not? We're not going green flag racing until the next lap. We are doing 3 laps again behind the safety car, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, we are going to have to patiently wait as we cross over the halfway point of this race. We're going to spend as much time behind the safety car at this rate as we are going racing. But this happens to be fair in real-life motorsport as much as it does in the simulator. And the safety car there for a reason because of all the chaos that's unfolded. And Mark Davenport comes into the pits. Now, this is a bit interesting because many of you will be wondering why exactly is he coming in. He hasn't got a black flag for a drive-through penalty, and nor has he got any damage on the car, it would seem. The reason Davenport's doing this, I suspect, if he does come to a standstill in the pit lane, as we do wait to see where he pitches up. There he goes. Is the car going to go up on the jacks? The answer seems to be that camera angle's not too flattering, and unfortunately we don't have any better camera angles. Well, he might be deciding to put a little bit more fuel in the car. Mickey Ford's also in there, and also Davenport. In fact, I'm hearing in my ear at the moment they're actually doing repair work to the Manx Racing car. Mickey Ford, meanwhile, he's parked up and obscured there, so we won't be able to get any pictures. But both cars are in for repair work, rather than to put a fresh set of tyres on. These GT4 tyres, of course, they can last the best part of a whole hour of racing if needed, and 40 minutes is quite a comfortable distance. But understandably, if you push those tyres hard, they only really last about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on the conditions and the circuit specifically, and also the driver's driving style. So therefore, it might be worth a gamble if you can get those tyres up to temperature to come into the pits. If you're already all the way down the back already, it might be worth just coming into the pits regardless, putting on a fresh set, and then just tossing everything at the race in order to see whether you can make all the places up. Because right now, well, many of drivers' tyres have not really been touched, albeit understandably, they will be thinking that with the way that it's played out on the tyre degradation, that it's all going to be about, at this point, thinking to themselves, okay, well, we can push these tyres, but do we dare to push them that hard? We will have to wait and see what the game plan is going to be for our drivers here, because this is definitely a race now that has moved into sprint territory. It is no longer a full feature race as such. They've been out there for the best part of 23 minutes, but when we do go green flag racing, hopefully at the end of this next lap, we will have about 15 minutes left. I'm presuming there's no more safety cars after that. As the lights on the safety car go off, we are definitely going green flag racing at the end of this one. That's where we're going to have to see who, over effectively 15 minutes in the final lap, is going to be at the sprint maestro before we do get to our sprint race round, the first of 2 of them for this season, next time out. And that'll be at the Virginia International Raceway, where we do see the introduction of what will be our sprint format of 2 races. The first race being a 15-minute race, and the second one being 25 minutes, with a grid set based on results from race number 1. But right now, this is definitely going to be a rehearsal, in a way, for what will be the 15-minute sprint race in a week's time. Presuming there's no safety car in that one. As you can see now, everyone's starting the bob and weave as they try to get some tyre temperature in. We jump on board the car of Martin Rendell here, the number 33. He's all the way down in 5th place in AM. He has got behind him Paul Sims and Valerio Tedeschi, his 2 rivals, and in front of him he's got 3 pros in the form of Marlon Schwab, Francesco Petalin and Nick Clibbins as they move further away from him and further up the order. Right now, for Rendell, his focus first and foremost will be to try and get away from Sims and Tedeschi, and after that it will then be to try and go hunting after the AM drivers inside the top 4 in the class and work with the pros in front of him. We look back from Rendell's car. There you can see the BMWs of Sims and Tedeschi are queuing up behind. Dodson, Smith, Gardner and Owens also there. All those pro drivers we look at to carve the way through. It might be madness, to be fair, when we go green flag racing, but the most important thing is we do hope we don't have to experience another safety car here today, because we've already had 2. It's definitely consumed the best part of what has been approximately 20 minutes of racing. But without further ado, our second safety car period is about to come to a close, and it's Felix Smoggy to get us restarted for the second time today. And so the safety car pulls on in. It's beyond the safety car line. Felix Moggy waits as late as he possibly can here for our next restart. But there he goes then, and they roar the way away. Pro drives right at the front of the field. Immediately Kieran Sharp and Jack Southfield pull on out. But then suddenly realise that there's no pace there. And indeed, the way that Smoggy's bunched this field up, it's worked to his advantage. Down towards turn number 1 they come. And the field right now going into 2 packs. Those on the inside and those on the outside. Southfield being the lead of the drivers on the outside. But Smoggy seems to have nailed this restart. As Southfield meanwhile goes very deep understeer there and grab on the road. He's struggling for grip out there. It's Southfield just about keeps it together, but defending on the inside here versus Blankenstein, as Blankenstein looks one way then the other. Matt Sheraton gets into the mix there as they make their way through. Cars sliding sideways. Oh, they all go around again. There's multiple cars off the road, and well, as they all come back through, oh my goodness, and I think that's Mark Davenport. I think Davenport's into the side of one of our sideways cars. Also Valerio Petretti's been caught up there. I don't think we're going to be seeing another safety car given how deep we are into the race, ladies and gentlemen. That's another car round. I'm not quite sure who that was. Was that Miles Owens? Yes, it was. He rolls back onto the road. My goodness, it is an absolute car park of cars right now. And indeed, I think you could absolutely send all the car parts to the local scrapyard and you would be in business. But meanwhile, speaking of a driver who's in absolute business right now, here's Alessandro Dalladoni. We've lost Felix Moggy for the front of the field. I don't know where he's gone, but we'll find him very shortly, surely. As we are, Dalladoni is leading ahead of Sharp. But that is a car into the wall. That's Jack Southfield. Southfield to the barrier. He was struggling multiple times on the restart to get the grip in that Aston Martin. And the Aston Martin has come completely loose on him, coming out of Arabiata 2, and he's into the barrier there, and that might be a tow to the pits unless he can get it back on the road. But if so, it is going to be a heavily wounded car. Francesco Cardulo, meanwhile, he's avoided all the chaos, he's avoided all the madness, and he is your AM leader up into 4th place overall. You could not make this up, as Bart Raven is right there with him as they roar the way around. But I think we are carrying on with the racing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think there's going to be another safety car now all the way to the finish, given how deep we are into this race. And as Cartulo has to fend off Bart Raven behind him. Meanwhile, Tom Davidson is looking for an opportunity to pass Alan McCain, and that opportunity is going to come sooner rather than later, as Davidson in the end finds McCain, goes very wide there, coming out to turn number 15, and with it also a run wide there from Bart Raven in the foreground of the picture as they head down towards another lap. So we go on to what will be for these drivers now a 9th lap of racing, and only what is a 3rd lap without a safety car. And as they head down towards the braking zone for turn number 1, this is going to feel quite foreign this time. The fact they are able to go to turn number 1 at full pace, 2 by 2 they come into the corner. Raven holds off Schwab, and meanwhile Davidson and McCain side by side. They can stay side by side all the way up in towards turn number 2. I mean, it's the battle of Mercedes on Mercedes here. It's all going to come down to the driver, and in the end McCain is able to stay with Davidson, but Davidson does take the place and confirm it. Schwab versus Raven. Well, Bart Raven makes another mistake. They're coming out to turn number 3 and in towards 4 and 5 they go. Marlon Schwab moves into 5th place here, and Schwab right now is absolutely thriving out there. So we've got several cars in the pit lane, including Martin Brendel, Nick Clemens, Paolo Beniti and Paul Sims. They've all been caught up in damage, and it does look as though the list of potential cars that are going to lap down is only increasing by the lap. I mean, all of this, suddenly, Mickey Ford, after that absolutely gutting moment when he got it all wrong at the restart after the first safety car from the lead of the race overall and in the AM class, well, he's back into 2nd place in AM right now, and FD Racing, I don't think they can quite believe it at the moment. We're not going to praise him too highly. We don't want to put the commentator's curse on him, with Valerio Tedeschi chasing after that 2nd place spot on the AM podium. But they've got some time before Craig Murphy comes about, as he's in a Porsche. That's definitely got some front bumper damage there, but he's trying to struggle on here and not think about the damage, but simply think about getting the car to the end, because there's big points up for grabs here. And the simple fact of the matter is, with all the chaos that's played out at any moment, well, there could even be more of it. But that's a move. Francesco Petterli up the inside of Alan McCain. He moves up into 8th place now as the absolute multiple ace-lift driver, and he is not waiting around as Petterli. He is hurrying as he made the move at turn number 12. And it does seem as though the 992 driver right now fancying his chances here, and indeed he's only another 7 places away from the lead of the race, and that lead is not too far up the road. It is from him only 6.5 seconds, and he's definitely got formidable pace. He is matching the leaders at the moment. But at the front of the field, Kieran Sharp has taken the lead. He's managed to take that off Alessandro Dalladone, and how did he get the move done? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because Dalladone is going to look for the move back around the outside here into turn number 1, as Matt Sheraton tries to go around the outside of what is there, a car that's almost a lap down, the former Paul Sims. So Sheraton here wants Sims to back off. He will go up the inside, and Sims will be made to go a long way around at turns 2 and 3. And well, they'll finally settle the differences. But a replay awaits us, and it's in the form of Kieran Sharp leading the race. Because this is how he took the lead, because coming down towards turn number 1 on the previous lap, Well, it was all about the slipstream here, and Sharp in that McLaren, it's not the fastest car on the straight, but it does have a lot of top-end speed if it can get a draft, and just simply moved ahead there. Daladon not fighting it too hard, recognising the fact that right now there's big points up for grabs regardless of how much you fight. But meanwhile, we've just had this happen for Mickey Ford, and he was at the time in second in the AM class, going through turns 2 and 3. I think it's going to be the same corner that called him out on the previous restart, and it is the rear of the car. Let's go for Ford for FD Racing, and that is a potential podium in the AM class, surely spoiled now with another mistake at the same place as before. He did rejoin, he rejoined in 4th place in AM, all the way back in 17th place. We'll keep an eye on it as we return to your live racing. We've got a slowdown penalty for Craig Murphy as well for Manx Racing for track limits through the turn 4-5 chicane. So therefore the number 49 driver had to burn that shortly. And as he does so, it does seem as though here Murphy has been able to burn it. We've got a black flag for Valerio Petretti. That will be for instant points, and that will be a drive-through penalty that he's going to have to serve. For goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, it is absolute pandemonium here. And right now, I can tell you one thing. We had all the major chaos of the second and final restart. We will try and get a replay of that when we can, but we also want to try and stay transfixed to live racing at this point and give praise to the fact that in the end it is all coming down now to the wire. With only 8.5 minutes left on the clock, and Kieran Sharp and Alessandro Daladone are the two big names battling for overall honours right at the top, with Matt Cheverton also there in the wings. And looking a bit further back, Tom Davidson here, he heads on down with Marlon Schwab on the inside, and the Porsche Cayman 718 driver here tried just to stay ahead. He's got the brakes in the Porsche, but he hasn't got the speed compared to the AMG, and as they come in towards turn number 2, he's going to try and hook it around the outside to get the inside of turn number 3. Schwab there used the handling characteristics of the German machinery to his advantage, but runs out a little bit wide. Surely that's going to give Davidson the confidence here that he can beat Schwab into the next braking zone, and yes he will there as he chucks the car into turns 4 and 5, and the TSRC esports machine finally takes 5th place overall back, or 4th place in pro. But as he does, Schwab is right there with us as they head down the hill. We ride on board the front bump here of the DLR FP1 car, and we can just see the body language there. Schwab just able to confidently carry the speed, no moving about based on our camera. Meanwhile, the car in front of Tom Davidson sliding all over the place here, as something tells me that track temperature may not be as high as perhaps they predicted it would be, given the conditions. We've got quite misty conditions here, and therefore it does seem as though Davidson right now is getting himself together. He is pulling away, but he's having to drive that Mercedes absolutely on the limit. You can just see the way the car is rolling around on the rear, and as a result, that is what's making that Mercedes so quick, but also it's making it so dangerously close to end up going on the round. And Schwab, meanwhile, in a Porsche mid-engine rear-wheel drive, is not having any issues whatsoever with rear stability, and if anything, he just seems to be very happy with the way the car's behaving at the moment. We'll have to see whether that gives him an opportunity to get on back, because it seems as though Davidson, your pole sitter coming into today's race, well, he does have all the pace at his fingertips, but the problem is he's not got many more laps left. Looking back to Mark Davenport, he's on the back of Paolo Beniti as they fight over 6th place in the AM class. They right now are on to what will be their 11th lap of the circuit as our leaders are just finishing it. And this is where we've had the several safety car periods, plus also the pit stops for damage, really playing a hand in the race. But we have seen the field separate into 2 major packs. Those who are on the lead lap, with some drivers who are lapped down in amongst them. And then we've got the drivers who are on the lead lap, but starting a lap approximately 2/3 of the way behind the leaders. And therefore, right now, they're thinking about just trying to make it to the end of the race without losing a lap. And Davenport does have the best part of 10.5 seconds behind Lenny Hansen. And the bottom job racing driver here, well, right now in the Simpsons machine with Homer Simpson in the hedge there. I've just noticed that, and while I try not to laugh as much as I can, we're trying to get it together as Paolo Beniti gets it wrong, coming out to Albiata 2. Well, it goes spinning across the road, and well, the driver who was a lap down, that was, I believe, Valerio Petretti, almost being collected there. And hold up a second, that is Petretti. Petretti into the gravel there for the Italian job, and well, as he gets it back together, the ITJ machine, well, it has been a frustrating month for the number 15. He was the driver as well in the contact on the open lap, who we thought was Mark Davenport. We do apologise for the confusion there, but Petretti has got it wrong, and well, it could have been far, far worse between the 2 of them, and this is what happened to Maniti. And this was Davenport over the back of him, but Maniti made his way into the braking zone here for turn number 10. Davenport up the inside, door run between the 2 of them, and Davenport wants it, and Maniti in the end, very, very well done to get the brakes on there and stop it sliding immediately into the side of Petretti, but that could have been far, far worse, but he will be fuming about that one. Now back to your live racing we go, and we continue to have the swap back and forth. It happened into turn number 12 only moments ago. Dalladone has retaken the lead of the race with 5 minutes left on the clock here as they get ready to do battle another time. When it comes to the end of lap number 12, they will have at least what will be 2 more laps for the finish line, if not 3 in fact. They give the fact they've got just under 5 minutes to go, and the lap time here is just under 2 minutes. You do the mental mathematics there, but it does mean we've got 3 more left on the clock as they roar the way onwards. And Dalladone right now in that BMW M4, well, we do know it's got the straight line speed over the McLaren, but the only problem is that McLaren's got the toe of the BMW, and that's going to give Kieran Sharp all the confidence he needs to stay right with him. Meanwhile, AM leader of Francesco Cardulo, at this point, he must be thinking to himself right now, are there any AMs anywhere near me? And I think his team principal on the wall is going to be saying to him, Francesco, just focus on getting the car home. You are well clear at the front of the Anfield. You have got a 30-second gap to Craig Murphy. You don't need to be worried. Tom Davidson, meanwhile, he's worried about trying to find his way past the AM leader, understandably, because only 1.1 seconds up the road is Matt Cheverton, and he's very eager here, the number 42, trying to get himself back onto the pro podium, as we do have what is a slowdown penalty there for Cardulo due to track limits. He's going to burn that immediately there, decides not to waste any time, and well, Davidson will be released there, and I think Cardulo right now just needs to make sure he doesn't pressure himself into making any potential mistakes, because those mistakes can prove extremely costly. But in terms of mistakes, well, Bart Raven, he had a bit of a mistake earlier on that second restart, but the 51 driver was able to avoid most of the chaos of the carnage, and he's chasing after Francesco Petalin now in the run for 7th place. Runs out a bit wide there, and those track limits, well, they're only going to slow you down by running into the gravel. And right now, Bart Raven chasing Petalin as hard as he can. I think pushing himself beyond his abilities here, but that's where you find the pace. Of course, he takes another bit of gravel there, coming through turns 10 and 11, and will drive him right on the ragged edge of adhesion is Raven. And how long will it be before he either settles it back down or alternatively makes a mistake? We will have to see. Going back to Craig Murphy, he's chasing after Miles Owens, but Murphy is your second place runner in the M-Class right now, 15th overall. He's got the problem of Valerio Tedeschi behind him, and here is the 69 privateer, who's looking all nice in his livery, and as he roars his way up towards turn number 13, well, his full process is going to be, can I potentially go one step further on the podium, or is Murphy just too quick? Well, based on qualifying positions, you would say that Murphy's the quicker driver, but then again, with the way this was played, the race has played out, it's anybody's guess here, and that's what we're wondering at the very front of the field. Because coming back to your leaders there as they go on to the penultimate lap, it is still Dalladone versus Sharp, and right now the Italian driver is holding on to lead by 2.5 tenths. Now for Sharp, he needs to put the pressure on in these corners, because that's where the McLaren has got a pace advantage, where otherwise it has not got the speed compared to his BMW, but the Italian job driver knows that. And what he's doing right now is making himself nice and wide through these sweeping bends, and if he can maintain that all the way through to the final corner, then he will be able to outdrag that McLaren to the finish line on the final lap, because that McLaren only really gains once it gets into 6th gear, but it gets into 6th gear by the time they've already crossed the finish line. Down now in towards Arabiata 1 and 2 through turns 8 and 9 they go, and you see right now Dalladone is just keeping the car nicely positioned right on the racing line. Meanwhile, Sharp weaving, trying to use as much of the road as humanly possible here, driving right to the edge of the track, and he wants every mile an hour he can in that dirty air to try and carry him forward. Looks around the outside then, towards the right into left, but in the end has to back off there, knowing Dalladone would slam the door shut in his face, not being full alongside forever. And these two drivers right now absolutely battling hard. It's brilliant racing between them, as we'll see Sharp looking around the outside again here, but this is all about posturing as they rumble their way down towards 13 and 14, and you can see Sharp, they're so close at the moment as they head through 13 and 14. Cheverton behind, meanwhile, under big pressure from Tom Davidson. Davidson has caught up very quickly and wants to get onto that podium. I think it's going to be a question of when, not if he can go for a move. You can see in the rear of the picture there, that is going to be Marlon Schwab trying to pass Francesco Cardulo, and Francesco Petlin's going to try and come with him very shortly. But here they come then down through turn number 15, and on to a final lap we go. And here come your leaders then with 1 minute left on the clock. It will be a 15th and final lap of race there in Italy at the Mugello Grand Prix circuit. But who will win? Will it be Alessandro Dalladone or Kieran Sharp? Both yet to get a win this season. We will have a new winner today, but which of the two will it be? The BMW of Dalladone then defends hard on the inside. Sharp trying to go all the way around the outside, but in the end backs it off. Looks for the cutback instead later on. Matt Cheverton, he's holding on to third still. Davidson tries to go all the way around the outside, but that's not going to work either, as Francesco Cardulo, your AM leader, tries to hold on to 5th place overall. with Martin Schwab and Francesco Pettini right behind him. Right now, the AM drive definitely putting on a pro performance, no doubt about it. That's not to say he should be promoted, but that goes to show you how much he wants this overall top 5. It means a lot to do so. But at the front of the field, Kieran Sharp has picked up a slowdown penalty. That is a track limit at turn number 3. And as a result, the number 23 driver here now will have to burn the time penalty. He can't afford to stay close to Daladone. Daladone may have this one in the bag now, unless Sharp can pull off a miracle. Daladone gets it wrong. Meanwhile, Cheverton, he's still under major pressure in the rear of the picture. That's Schwab and Petlin fighting side by side. Petlin gets up the inside there of Schwab in towards Albiato 1, but is it all for naught? Is Schwab going to look for the run back here as I head up the hill? He may just do so here. He'll pick up a lot of speed, and he's got the cornering potential with that Porsche that the BMW does not have, but he's got to be brave and try and look for the move, but he decides not to go for it initially. Meanwhile, Cheverton still acts as a rolling roadblock as Daladone has been caught up to at the very front of the field, and was the battles for what is 4th, 3rd, and also the win in the pro class all happen simultaneously here. We're keeping abreast of them as we can. Well, right now, Alessandro Daladone under so much pressure. All he's got to do is now the final corner. If he can get this done right, he will be leading to the line, surely. But Kieran Sharp there kept him into the inside for as long as possible. Daladone goes nice and early on the brakes here. Stops the car right on the apex. And that is going to be a drag race all the way to the finish line. Out of the final corner they come. Daladone gets the throttle down. Sharp as well. It's a drag race then. The checker flag awaits. And Alessandro Daladone weaves from side to side. He's done it. The Italian job driver has taken the win. He makes it daylight robbery and wins in pride overall ahead of Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective. Matt Sheraton holds on to 3rd ahead of Tom Davidson. Francesco Petlin takes 5th, and behind him it's a Francesco double whammy here with Francesco Cadulo taking his 1st and win of the season, 6th overall ahead of Marlin Schwab, with Bart Raven there for Cracked Racing in 8th place ahead of Jack Southfield. Alan McCain will come home in 10th place, and it'll be Craig Twardock in 11th. Craig Murphy, meanwhile, he makes his way towards the timeline in 15th place, just behind Miles Owens. And for Craig Murphy for Banks Racing, it has been up, it's been down, it's been all around and shunted and punted as well. But in the end, he takes 2nd place in the AM class, head of Valerio Tedeschi, who rounds off the AM podium there in 16th place. Mickey Ford, how about this, ladies and gentlemen? The FD Racing driver, at one point, it was a dream to be leading the race, but it all went wrong. And even the second time, it went wrong for the podium, but he will finish 4th for the AM class. A season best performance there for Mickey Ford, and indeed a career best performance in the AM class. What a great effort from him. He'll take 17th overall ahead of Martin Rendell, who rounds off your AM top 5. And then we do have Mark Davenport in an extremely frustrating race here for Manx Racers. Just in front of it is Luke Smith, who finishes the lap down in 24th, 11th at AM. But for Davenport, having started right on pole, well, in the end, in the AM class, he settles for 6th, but this has not been the race he's wanted, just ahead of Paolo Maniti, who makes his way out of the final quarter. And the privateer here will take 20th overall, knowing that a potential AM podium here today slipped out of his grasp. And then it will be Lenny Hansen, who's your last lead lap finisher for Bottle Job Racing. And goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, it was absolute pandemonium. And can you imagine if any other driver had gambled after the first safety car not to pit, and then only to find out we would have had our 2nd safety car as Hansen decides to escort the Italian job machine to the barrier. And well, I think there might be a word between the two drivers after the race about that one, with the stewards as well. But Alessandro Daladone here weaves his way on down. He's absolutely ecstatic as the Italian job driver. And well, they always say it's not about how you start a race, it's about how you finish. And for Daladone, he's definitely finished on the ultimate accolade, which is an overall win, as unfortunately he does hit the pit wall there. And well, the team won't be too pleased about the fact they've now got to repair the rear of that BMW in preparation for VIR in a week's time. But it's definitely been a race that's been up, down and around. And for Daladone, it's a win. For Kieran Sharp, it's a 2nd place and a championship lead that heads his way, with Tom Davidson not too far behind in that 4th place finish. Matt Sheraton squaring off the field between the two of them. But as Mickey Ford calls on down and makes his way towards the pit lane with that brilliant 4th place in the AM class, let's take a look at the scenic view. And with it, of course, ladies and gentlemen, those race results, subject to what I suspect is going to be quite a busy set of stewards' inquiries come the end of this round. So here are the results. These, of course, provisional. And as we can see, after 40 minutes of racing, many of it behind the safety car in round number 2 of the Sim Racing Collective GT4 Series Season 3, as brought to you from Italy at the Autodromo International del Mugello, it was Alessandro Daladone who takes victory as a home hero today for the Italian job by just shy of 3/10 of the Sim Racing Collective Esports' Kieran Sharp, who I think in the end realised if he couldn't keep that BMW behind him based on the pace it was able to bring to the table lap after lap, that he would have to settle for second, and that's what he did. It was then a further 5 seconds to Matt Sheraton for Aztec Racing, who found his way all the way from 11th to the podium. And what a brilliant effort from him as well, taking that overall podium, and with it, a pro podium fending off the attacks of championship leader coming into the round, Tom Davidson. Speaking of whom, finished 4th there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and I think will be scratching his head to wonder where exactly did the lead leave his hands. Then in 5th place was Francesco Petalin for Absolute Motorsport Acelift, who makes 1 place up compared to where he finished at Alton Park, but knows that podium has escaped him once again, but he was just ahead of his fellow countryman, and the AM winner for Passione Course of Francesco Cardulo. And what an effort for the 75 driver in the Ford Mustang. In the end, stayed out of drama, stayed out of trouble, and got that win, a very important one. Martin Schwab finished in 7th place there for DLR FP1 in the Porsche, a very consistent drive, ahead of Bart Raymond for Cracked Racing, and behind the Dutchman it was Jack Southfield and Alan McCain for the Sim Racing Collective Esports and iRacing Esports respectively, who completed your overall top 10. Best of the rest in 11th place was Craig Twaddock there for MSA Racing, and a race that definitely was not going in his favour nor going against him today, and really had to settle for that result, unfortunately. He was ahead of Mav Gardner, with Sam Smith in 13th place for iRacing Esports, ahead of Altura Esports' Miles Owens, and then completing your top 15 overall was your runner-up in AM of Craig Murphy. The Manx Racing driver in the end pulling 7 seconds over Valerio Tedeschi, but Tedeschi will be very happy to be on the final spot of the AM podium in 16th overall, and behind the privateer it was Mickey Ford and Martin Rendell, and indeed FD Racing having an absolutely brilliant day today in the hands of Mickey Ford, although he'll be gutted not to have been able to potentially land an AM podium. That 4th place finish and all the points that come with it will be extremely valuable as the season goes on. From then, in 19th place, it was Mark Davenport, the pole sitter for Manx Race in the AM class, who had it all go wrong multiple times today. Indeed, Mugello just was not kind to him, and the same can be said for Paolo Maniti, the privateer. The last lead lap finisher was Lenny Hansen for Bottle Job Racing, with being a lap down there to Paul Sims, Daniel Moffat and Luke Smith and Valerio Petretti. And then we did see retirements from the race, unfortunately, in the form of Felix Moggi, Nick Clevins and Martin Blankensteiner. But that was your overall finishing positions. What about in class, and where do all the points end up going? Well, we start with the pros, and here we can see that Alessandro Dalladone, your winner then for the Italian job by 2.5 tenths over the Sim Racing Collective Esports' Kieran Sharp, and Aztec Racing's Matt Sheraton rounding off the pro podium. A fall to Tom Davidson, and indeed that championship lead will swing to Kieran Sharp, but he'll be very close behind, and Francesco Petalin with 5th place continues to slightly move forward in the championship, but known for Absolute Motorsport Acelift, more work needs to be done. Marlon Schwab, a consistent result there in 6th place, ahead of Bart Raven, and the top 10 was completed by Jack Southfield, whose spin in that Aston Martin cost him dear after that second restart, ahead of Alan McCain and Craig Twaddock. In 11th, it was Mav Gardner, ahead of iRacing Esports' Sam Smith, where your pro finishing order completed by Miles Owens, who was your last classified finisher for Altura Esports, and then the non-finishers are Felix Moggi, Nick Clevins and Martin Blankensteiner. Then from the Cracked Racing driver with misfortune to the wonderful fortunes at the top of the AM class for none other than Passione Course's Francesco Cardulo, who was 31 seconds clear of Craig Murphy. And the Manx Racing driver there, I don't think he's going to quite believe when he finds out he's on the second spot of the podium. Valerio Tedeschi completed your AM podium at 17 seconds ahead of Mickey Ford. The FD Racing driver in the end safe and sound for Martin Rendell, who completed your top 5. Mark Davenport was in 6th, ahead of Palamaniti, with Lenny Hansen being your last lead lap finisher for Bottle Job Racing. It was a lap down to the privateers of Paul Simpson and Daniel Moffat, as it was to FD Racing's Luke Smith, and also there to the Italian job's Valerio Petretti, who completed the AM finishing order. Well, that's a rundown of the results, ladies and gentlemen, but goodness me, what a race we've had here today. Full of drama from the start all the way through to the finish, albeit we ended on a high of plenty of battling up towards the top 10 end of the field, and particularly right at the front of the field between Alessandro Dalladone and Kieran Sharp. But as we battled to catch our breath, we'll be back in approximately 5 to 6 minutes' time for potential post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our post-round interviews. And we are going to kick off from hearing from the man who in the end threw everything at it right towards the end of the race, but could not quite find a way to take the overall win. He settles for second once again. And joining me in the interview room is none other than Kieran Sharp. Good evening to you, Kieran. And well, last time out at Alton Park, it was all about the strategy that made your way all the way through from 10th to 2nd. Here today, a brilliant qualifying session, but just not quite enough to take the win. Another second place.
Yeah, could have been a bit more. I think I threw it away at the end, getting I think multiple slowdown pens one after the other, and yeah, Alessandro, he didn't fold when I got onto the back of him at the very end, and kept me at bay, take the win. It's definitely lucky with how some of those safety car restarts played out. With people spinning and such, but that isn't what we really want to see. We want to see more racing throughout the whole night. So yeah, it was a shame it wasn't a bit longer to see how it all unfolded.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we talked in the build-up to today, and you were telling me about the fact at Alton Park, the McLaren just did not feel that comfortable. And here at Mugello, a bit of a Marmite car in a way, and the fact that you've got all the speed in the corners, but as soon as you get onto any of those straights, you just haven't got the top-end speed by comparison. I mean, how did it feel given the way the race played out? Did it still feel as though it was a bit of a weakness, or was it not as relevant in the end?
I think what really had McLaren were the restarts and restarts on the pitch straight. The gearing wasn't really suited to the restart speed. The first was too short and second was too long. So even if I had a good reaction, I was getting swarmed at the start. And I mean, the race start, I lost multiple positions, and I'd have to be very aggressive, which wasn't really necessary for a race that was supposed to be a bit longer. So yeah, I think just keeping the restarts tidy was important, and it definitely paid off with all the chaos that unfolded.
Now, to be fair, and that's a good point, you do have a reputation of being a driver who prioritises making it to the end of the race in the safe condition first and foremost, and then chasing down the result. But let's dial things away from the race and talk a little bit about qualifying. Fourth place in qualifying, not too far off a pole either. Were you happy with your qualifying lap?
Could have been better, but it'd be nice being close to Tom. But Tom was on a whole other level tonight with his quality pace. But it was definitely better than last week, where I threw away quality with putting it in a tyre stack at Alton. So yeah, it's definitely something to work on, but getting there for sure.
Well, 100%. And with regards to then getting there, like you say, qualifying and trying to get there in the early stages, you mentioned that had to have a bit of an aggressive start after losing places. But what we did see one driver do during the first safety car period was opt to stay. It was the AM driver of none other than Mickey Ford who decided to not stop. Do you perhaps think, now that we obviously know we had two safety cars in the end, that a no-stop might have been the way to go?
Yeah, that definitely would have been the strat if you knew there was going to be two safety cars. As I had, I think I had half the starting fuel left by the end of the race still. So yeah, better used anything, and yeah, that would have been an absolute gamble, but it would have paid off if that was the case.
Well, he chose to play it safe, much like the majority of the field, because nobody could have predicted the second safety car until it did happen. But just being behind the safety car for so long, I mean, just take us through. Obviously, these GT4 cars, they really struggle for tyre temperature now compared to how they used to be, or grip, I should really say. What's it like restarting the car after going green for literally half a lap to then have to go into that slowdown period for several laps, the best part in a way of about 12 minutes where the tyre temperature fades, then having to get it back again, and then losing it again? I mean, it must have been a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't think anyone even got their tyres warm to begin with after the first safety car, and I think that definitely compounded the issue going into the second restart, where I think multiple people lost it, which it looks really silly. So I'm sure everyone's going to be discussing on how they feel about it, and I'm sure if there's any changes being made, maybe called in a safety car a bit more later if it's in the first lap until people have their tyres warm, things like that. I'm sure we're all going to discuss that, but yeah, I think it's still also a learning curve. I think a lot of people are still getting used to the new tyres, with how cold they are and how they behave on the restarts and things. So it might be a bit of both, like learning from everyone on the track and maybe some minor changes to the safety car procedure if we continue to use it.
Well, that's absolutely fair. You can always learn, but I can tell you one thing that you never need to learn, and you've demonstrated time and time again over the years I've seen you race in several series, is your ability to go battling. And I must admit, incredible fight between yourself and Alessandro Dalladone in the closing 10 minutes of the race. It must have felt nice to think, you know what, we're battling now, and it is just back to pure sprint race into the end.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, I guess it's a taste of what's to come next week when we have the first sprint round, because the first race is pretty much kind of that race length. And yeah, I think it definitely sets a standard for what it may be.
Well, we head to VIR then for our sprint race round. How are you feeling for the circuit?
I think you're going to see a very big split of the cars that are good on the straights and the cars that aren't. However, I think the slipstream did look promising here on the pitch straights. You may be able to force some moves on those big straights if you're in the car that maybe isn't quite up to speed naturally.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you can do at VIR. But just before we do let you go, Kieran, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Just everyone sticking with it. It was an easy round tonight, and I think everyone tried their best to make it to the end. And I think only those that didn't were the ones that used their fast pair. So yeah, it was great to see everyone try their best to make it to the end, despite the struggles.
Well, like you're saying, credit to everyone where it's due for struggling on through and making it to the finish, yourself included. And whilst it wasn't a win, second place, you do become, I believe, our provisional championship leader going into round number 3. And we look forward to seeing whether you can hold that lead come VIR in a week's time. But until then, Kieran, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you, see you a bit.
So hearing there, ladies and gentlemen, from Kieran Sharp, the Pro Class driver today, who said, first and foremost, with regards to the fact that it worked out better in qualifying, but there's still work to do. He doesn't like the fact that he's quite a way still off the pace of Tom Davidson. However, it would all be for naught with the chaos that unfolded with regards to the race start, the safety car restart, and the second safety car restart. And as we did see in the pictures, in the end, taking sufficient evasive action to be able to avoid being collected, because he mentioned the one thing he prioritises first and foremost is being safe and staying out of trouble. As for the closing 10 minutes of racing, well, we got to see a brilliant back-and-forth battle between himself and Alessandro Dalladone, but the BMW just having the edge in the end, and the slowdown penalties also playing a factor. And for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, you can hear it in his voice, whilst he is happy with second, it's a bittersweet happiness, and he knows a win really was here today, and it slipped out of his clutches. But something tells me at VR and the sprint race rounds, something he absolutely enjoys and he's looking forward to, we may see Kieran Sharp go the distance and put himself on the top step for the first time this season. But as we step away from our first interview, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back very shortly for the second of our 3 interviews for tonight. And so we come to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, and we come to the man who finished in third place at the finish line. It was none other than Matt Cheverton, who joins me now. Good evening to you, Matt. And what an absolutely crazy race for your Ford Mustang and yourself. I mean, you probably couldn't make head or tail of it in the end in terms of where you started versus where you finished. What was the best part of 8 places gained, and in the end on a spot on the podium. But you had to work for it right at the finish line.
Yeah, I'll happily concede in this one. This is a bit of a fairy tale podium in this instance. And I think in this new pro field, I'm sort of in the middle of it. I wouldn't say I have the pace to keep up with the top boys. So yeah, I mean, just the way, sometimes you got to let the race come to you. And I think with the cold tyres and the safety cars, and maybe a few prayers here or there, we just somehow avoided all of it, and then ended up with this fairy tale podium.
Oh, indeed, an absolute fairy tale out there. But I have to ask, before we talk about today, what made you pick the Ford Mustang for this series?
I've got 8 reasons, and they're in a V formation. Yeah, I'm a Mustang fan, real life, in Sims. I love the car in general. It's probably dream car. Obviously, I've seen the GT3 version race at Le Mans brands. So, as soon as iRacing announced it was coming, it was a no-brainer. bought it instantly, loved driving it, loved the noise, and in all fair dinkum, it's actually a pretty well-rounded car for being a big muscle car in a field of, European sports cars. So, yeah, nice car to drive, and yeah, just being a bit of a Mustang fanboy.
Well, absolutely fair. And from that selection, I do have to agree with your selection, to be fair. I'm not allowed to have favourites, but I'm nodding very viciously right now that V8 is the way to go in a bit of American muscle. Qualifying, 11th overall, 8th in class. Did that feel right, or did it feel as though something had gone wrong in qualifying?
It felt about right. I mean, I will wholeheartedly admit I did not do as much practice as I wanted to. I would argue I came in here a little bit blind. But if I have to maybe pat myself on the back, I think one of my greatest strengths is getting on it pretty quickly. I mean, I have a habit of just, needing about 5 laps to find my footing, and the pace seems to come my way. So, yeah, maybe it was on a little bit of back foot in terms of track knowledge, but to get 11th and a P8 in class and then just consistently improving across the 3 qualifying laps, I'll happily take it.
Fair play to you, and I think that's a great way to look at things, that gradually improving as qualifying went on. And then going into the race, of course, Alton Park, relatively straightforward. Here today, it was anything but straightforward. 2 safety car periods, and the open effective 28 minutes of racing down to what was about 1 lap of racing and then 6 or 7 laps behind the safety car. I mean, where did you find yourself in all of it over the safety car distance? Did you find yourself right in the heart of some of the incidents, or were you able to dodge most of it?
I think some I was able to dodge. I had a bit of time to react because, I mean, we were all bunched up, so we were all going slower anyway. And then obviously people were losing it under the cold tyres, so everyone's sort of backing off anyway, but we were slow enough to avoid it. I'll happily admit I got extremely lucky on one of them. There was a white and blue Mustang, I believe it was, just a middle of the track, and I think I missed it by a hair. So I'm counting my lucky stars on that one. So yeah, it was just a mixed match of things, and obviously, yeah, a 20-odd minute safety car on very cold tyres in a big 5-litre Mustang is very scary, to say the least.
Oh, 100%. And talking about scary moments, when we did go racing for the remaining 11 minutes, we saw you batting initially with Jack Southfield, side by side the two of you between Arrabbiata 1 and 2, but in the end it all went round for Southfield, whereas it went right for you. I mean, at what point do you think to yourself, I might be getting away with this at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird incident. I mean, first of all, I didn't really want it to happen, and obviously it'll probably be reviewed by the stewards, but if I was fault to blame, I apologise to Jack for that. But yeah, it was just a weird one. I mean, he clearly had the overrun on me, and then I think I'd argue it was a bit of a risky move around the outside on probably one of the fastest corners on the track. And then, like I said, freezing cold tyres, big Mustang. It's not the most nimble thing in the world, and I tried to give as much room as I can, but I guess I might have got too close. But yeah, we sort of got very lucky in the fact I didn't go around as well, and then we just sort of carried on our race from there, and and then the race said for itself.
Oh, 100%. And talking more about the positives, particularly at the very end, Tom Davidson breathing down your neck in the last couple of laps, but you just managed to hold on. I mean, that must have been frightening to have the pole sitter right there with you on the final lap.
Yes, very, very stressful. He, yeah, I was watching the relative, and I was more worried about, I believe it was Schwab in the pro class. Obviously, there was an am between us. I saw him lightly gaining, and I was like, okay, as long as I sort of keep this gap and this pace, we should be good. And I checked the relative again, and he's just there, and he's approaching like 3/10 a corner, and it's like, okay, this could get fun. But yeah, and then come the last 2 laps, he was right behind me. He was, I just stuck to the inside on the corners where I thought he was close enough to make the move, and you could see him trying to get sort of a cutback. But luckily for me, I have the bigger engine, so he had no chance on down the straight. So yeah, I think had I been in a different car, he may have got me, but yeah, bit of American muscle saving the day.
Oh, 100%. An American muscle we trust. And speaking of America, you're heading to one of the car's home circuits next week, VIR. Our new sprint race format awaits. How are you feeling for it?
Good. I mean, I need to double check how the sprint format works because I completely forgot we have an alternative format. But in terms of the track, yeah, very good. I think there's two or three gigantic straights at VIR, and like here in Sharpie saying his interview before me, we've all got a sort of grasp of what cars are pretty good down the straight and which ones aren't, and it's safe to say I'm in the good section. So, I think without all crazy safety cars, you might be able to still do a good result, but I'd say maybe top 8, top 5 if I'm lucky. Maybe another fancy fairy tale podium, who knows? But looking forward to it.
Oh, 100%, and we look forward to seeing whether you can achieve your targets at VIR. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, so obviously shout out to the team and Team Aztec Racing, obviously all our sponsors for continued support. Thank you to the TSRC admins, Sharpie and the others, obviously for putting this series back on. I've been yearning the days to have another go after obviously doing so well in the last season, and so sort of well done sort of handling sort of this chaos that has been this race. And obviously shout out to yourself, Paul, for always putting on a fantastic broadcast.
Well, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. It always is, to be fair, my friend. And congratulations once again on your first podium of the season. Hard fought, but well earned. And we look forward to plenty more at VIR next week and whether you can get the prancing pony on all song with its 8 cylinders. Until then, though, have a great rest of your evening and we'll see you next time out.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from our second of our interviewees, Matt Cheverton, the Aztec racing driver, having a very interesting night and saying that the stars aligned there and it really was a dream come true in order to finish in 3rd place. Very pleased with his qualifying performance, given the fact he was learning every lap he turned, and to put himself into 11th place and just shy of the top 10 overall. That's no mean feat. When they went racing, well, all the chaos, he found himself in the midst of it, particularly in the first major incident, plus also the safety car restart for the first time, but able to survive it. And when we did go racing for the final time, full pelt, well, a bit of an unfortunate altercation between himself and Jack Southfield. Now, to be fair, unless my memory is very short, which it can sometimes be, I don't recall there being contact between the two, but the camera angle we had may not have suggested there was contact, whereas perhaps he felt a little bit different between himself and the TSRC driver, but definitely very risky between the pair to go side by side for Arabiata 1 and 2. But where the risks were with that, it was much cleaner defensive drive versus Tom Davidson, and in the end he was able to use the brutish power of his Ford Mustang to make sure he stayed on the podium. He fancies his chances at VIR, and we look forward to seeing whether he can seize those chances, and if he can, you never know, he might become a top 5 contender for the season. But we've got one more interview to come, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we will be back very shortly for our final interview of the evening. And so, as we come to our final interview, joining me in the interview room is none other than your AM driver who almost pulled off daylight robbery today. It is Mickey Ford. Good evening to you, Mickey. And well, if you had to summarise up today in terms of a single feeling you felt, what would it be?
Confusion probably, Paul, to be honest.
Oh, goodness me. I mean...
It's been...
Go on.
It's been an up and a down race from, as you saw, obviously, from not taking the first pit and getting to the front of the grid, and then a heavy bit of contact after the next restart, and it just pushed me right to the back. And then after the second one, it was just there was a lot going on.
Oh, 100%. So much going on, but let's try to break it down a little bit. Let's start with qualifying. 27th overall, 11th in class. How was qualifying out there for you?
Not gonna lie, I jumped in the car about half an hour before the race, and that was the first laps I did in the car.
Oh, fair play. So learning as you went then, but I mean, to be fair, learning circuits, Mugello, easy to learn or difficult to learn?
Relatively easy, I think, personally. It's quite flowing once you get used to it.
Well, fair play. And, well, speaking of then going into the race, obviously, race start, we saw the safety car come out after only 5 corners. Was it always the plan to gamble if there was a safety car and go, you know what, I'll just stay out if everyone else is going to come in?
I was kind of on the fly decision made, to be honest. I didn't really have a plan going into the race, but I saw everyone dive in. I thought, well, let's take my chance. Let's try and get to the front. And I know I'm going to get pushed back a little bit anyway because I didn't quite have the pace that everyone else had. But I thought I could take my chance and try and get up a few places, if not even by taking the lead at the start of the race, or the restart, should I say.
Oh, indeed. And, well, to be fair, it surprised us here in the commentary booth. No question about it. But, as well, it made my heart sink a little bit when it all went wrong after the restart. What happened?
So we went 3 deep into corners 2 and 3. And I think some bumps between some cars just unsettled mine. And I just went round in the end.
Well, some contact there, unexpected, and sent you round. And then we had our second safety car. And suddenly you found yourself towards the back of the field, but car in a repaired state by looks of things. But on the second and final restart, you were picking up places left, right and centre. I mean, you must have felt as though somebody given these to me for free.
Yes. So after the second safety car, again, we went up through 2 and 3 and through the twisty bits. And cars just seemed to be peeling off in front of me and going across the grass. And I was like, well, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that. And then one went sideways in front of me, so I dived the bucket around that. And then I came out and I thought, well, hang on a minute, I must be near the front of the AM class at least here. And then looked over and saw the position was like top 20. I was like, well, this is a win really in my eyes.
Oh, indeed. And at what point did you find out you were running 4th in AM?
About 4 or 5 laps from the end, I to be honest, I thought I was 3rd in class. Because I could see on the leaderboard on the side that I was, I could know who was in the AM class with me, but obviously couldn't see Cardulu because he was so far in front. So I honestly thought I was 3rd in class, so I was just keeping a steady pace, watching the cars behind me, making sure they're not making too much ground. It wasn't until the end of the race, which I started watching the live stream back and realised that I was actually 4th in class.
Well, to be fair, whilst it wasn't quite a 3rd place, like you mentioned earlier, very happy to be inside the top 20, and a 4th place as well lands you a huge haul of points. It's been a bit of an unpredictable one, but are you perhaps hoping you can continue this run of results going to VIR in a week's time?
I mean, always try to improve your results, obviously, but we shall see.
Oh, fair play. We look forward to seeing what you can do at VIR next round. But just before we do let you go, Mickey, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Of course, as always, I'd like to shout out FD Racing and my running mate Luke. He's always been a great help and a great person for enthusiasm, I find. And yeah, and obviously Paul for commentating. It's been an absolute legend listening to you.
Oh, thank you, Mickey. But I must also say it's been absolutely brilliant having you join me to talk about your race day. It's unfortunate you couldn't have pulled off an absolutely legendary miracle of your own or stolen the win away from everyone, but you never know what can happen this season, to be fair, and we look forward to seeing whether you can make the unconventional a reality at VIR. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
And you, Paul, thank you very much.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from our final interview of the day, Mickey Ford talking about really the absolutely unreal set of events that played out. From an initial qualifying session, we had to really learn the circuit as he went, but in the end, it was all about the race. And opted, when the safety car came out, with all the chaos that unfolded, he just decided, you know what if I don't pick compared to everyone else and I just give myself the best opportunity I can? It was a gamble. And it was a gamble in the end that would have paid off massively if he had not been involved in that multi-car incident on the restart coming through turns 2 and 3. But that's the way it went. He didn't give up, and then on the second restart, mentioned there the fact he stayed out of trouble and cars were just peeling off the road left, right and centre. In the end, it meant at one point he was on course for the AM podium. Thought he was still on course for it even after having to recover from his spin, which you just saw in the replay footage there, only to find out it was a 4th place finish. But to be fair, you can hear it in his voice. I think he's still letting the results settle in a little bit, but he's happy with it and he's looking forward already to VIR. And we look forward to seeing whether he can make it at least another top 5 in AM, if not his first podium of the season. But we'll have to wait a week to find out. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. And a huge thank you to all three of our drivers who took the time to take a chat with us. Firstly, of course, it was in the pro class. It was Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, our runner-up from the day, who spoke to us. After which we then went to Matt Cheverton from the pro class, another podium finisher, third in class for Aztec Racing. And then we just heard from your AM class fourth place finisher, 17th overall, of Mickey Ford there for FD Racing. And it's always great to hear from our drivers up and down the order. There's a story from everyone to be told here at the Sim Racing Collective. And a big thank you to all three of our drivers there for their time. And well done to them for their results. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Sim Racing Collective and everything in between in terms of the series we've run, and just get to know the community and what goes on behind the scenes, we can definitely recommend firstly you go to our official website, and that is at www.tsrc.club, and as our website appears on screen now, well, it is the official home for all things the Sim Racing Collective. And as you can see on the homepage, on the left hand side, you have all of our socials from the Sim Grid all the way through to the official Discord. Also got a link right in the center of the screen there to get to the beating heart of the community, which is our Discord server. You've also got our partners and affiliates at the bottom of the screen, and in the top right, you can find out all the latest news and all the rules of our series, all there in a couple of straightforward clicks. But if you don't necessarily want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, we can of course recommend that you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TSRC_official, where you can stay up to date with the latest news and announcements from the Sim Racing Collective community. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates, who do include, but not limited to, Motorsport UK's esports division, SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, and Abruzzi Simulation and Motorsport. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, 2 rounds are down, and next time we head to the end of the first half of the season, because we make our way to the US of A for the Virginia International Raceway. Round number 3, save the date in your diary, Monday the 24th of November 2025, and there we will see not just 1, but 2 races unfold in our all-new sprint format. And it is going to be a thriller there, where there's no pit stop on the cards. It's going to be full throttle racing action from lights out to checker flag, and there we'll see who is going to be the master of getting the job done in a very short period of time. But until then, we've been the Sim Racing Collective. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.